Great day, everybody. Welcome back to the BreakThrough Podcast, Discovering New Pathways. My name is Omar Muhammad, helping you improve and progress in business and in life. And over there, who we got?
My name is Lou Von Dungy. Thank you for having me as always, Brother Omar. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. So, the BreakThrough Podcast is brought to you by the Minority Business Development Agency and EDAC, the Entrepreneurial Development and Assistance Center at Morgan State University. We always glad to be here to share information and bring resources to you, the individual that's looking for resources to help you improve and progress. All right, before we get started though, just wanted to share, and Luvon, let me know, because I think I may have switched gears. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, nope, that's not it. So let me go back to, let me stop sharing. All right. So while I'm getting that up and running, so we always are looking for guests for the briefcase, the BreakThrough Podcast. So if you are a guest, interested in being a guest, and I'm not sure why we can't find that, but nonetheless, I'll come back to that. We are here once a month, and we provide resources for individuals. So if you're looking to be a guest, what we're looking for individuals that are formerly incarcerated and have their own business. We also are looking for organizations that support those individuals. So if that's you, give us a call, and we will like to have you here on board. And let me stop sharing it. And if you have some information, some resources that you can offer individuals, we definitely would like to have you on board as well. All right, so bear with us. We'll get those back toward the end. So nonetheless, let's just hop right into it. You can also find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Ride Small Biz. And if you're looking to reach out to me, my email address is omar@edacmorgan.com. That's EDAC Morgan.com. And if you want to be a guest, just hit me up and we'll get you on. All right, without further ado, we're going to bring our special guest. We have Stefan. This is Stefan or Stefan?
Stefan.
Stefan. All right. I don't know why I want to say Stefan. Stefan.
I get it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, Stefan Turner. All right, bro. Welcome to the BreakThrough Podcast. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for being on. All right, so I'm gonna let Luvon introduce you, because he's the one that I'm gonna say he discovered you, Stephon Marbury.
Stefan. I get it though. But lately it's been Steph Curry though.
Yeah, I'm bad.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna go there, let's
go. Steph Curry. Let me introduce Steph Curry.
So thanks for Omar. Again, thank you for Stefan for being here. Stefan and I have been friends for a number of years, and I've always quietly admired him. His focus on family, his focus on the exact nature of, his focus with assistance in the nonprofit space, community-driven initiatives, our kids, housing. And when you presented this opportunity as a host, I started scratching my head, like who could best fit and share information that would encourage, that would support, but more importantly, inspire other people to be their higher and best self. What's interesting is Stefan and I talk every day about these same topics that we talk about, Omar. So without belaboring his introduction, I just want to invite my good friend Stefan Turner to the forum, and thank you for EDAC, Omar, and Morgan State for setting this sort of process and template for us. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you, Luvon. I appreciate the words. I know that we have a long experience in the housing space, but more importantly, just a friendship. Our friendship is important, and as brothers. For me, it's been a journey. This whole notion of manhood, community partner, person with business interests, family man, friend. It's been a journey. And so, as Luwan mentioned, we chat every day and we talk about issues that are important to us as men, as family men, as homeboys, as brothers. And here lately, I've been thinking a lot about my experience here in my current work environment. I see young men in the community who let's start back with just the community in and of itself. One of the things I find myself asking is, where are the men? Where are the men in the community? And when I took on this first role, let me backtrack a little bit. I run a co-op in Washington, D.C., property manager. And one of the things that touched me when I first started here, I came here as a consultant. The purpose was to come here for two very specific projects. One had to deal with infrastructure within the property, and another one had to do with motivating existing staff. Ended up having to take the position over because the existing person exited, and the remaining team I had to coach up or coach out. In that role and in that capacity, as you can imagine, the property is, I'm not going to name the property, but it's a pretty substantial sized property in Northwest Washington, D.C. And so in that second role, I had to introduce myself to the community because, again, prior to that, my role was just with vendors and dealing with vendors specifically. The more interactive role with the membership or the families who reside here came, again, through that motivation and that role with addressing the staff. So one of the first things I did was I sent a notice out to everyone, letting them know that I was here and that my position was to be in interim. The intended time period was interim, but the whole point was to alert everyone here that I was here on a more permanent basis. They would see me more on a more frequent basis, let me say it that way. And so within a matter of a week, we received phone calls from members who wanted to come in and meet me, and I definitely wanted to do a meet and greet. So within that first week, I want to say that first period, I should say, I met about 30 families. All 90, I'll say of the 30, 29 were single women, head of households, who reside here. And there's one man who came in, and each one to a person looked me in my eyes and said, "Hey, we're afraid. We're afraid of our community." They were terrified here.
Wow.
And as I said, one of the things that struck me was the lack of leadership, lack of men in the community, engaged men, and what was going on in this community. This place is amazing. This location for me is amazing. It's in an area that's highly sought after within Washington, D.C. And I was always struck with, what is the problem? Why are we struggling the way we struggle? And I keep turning my head to the issue of the lack of men and the lack of leadership. So when I came here, I chatted with my homeboy and I let him know it was a struggle for me because, again, my focus was to just get in and out with my first piece, and that is come in, do some consulting work, deal to a project, and then get out of here. And I had two people in my ear who said, "You're there for a reason." I think Luvan mentioned to me there's something bigger there for you. You're there, there's a different kind of purpose there for you. And then there was another person who whispered in my ear, "Yeah, you want to give yourself a try," because I've done this property management thing before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I decided to stick around. I decided to see exactly and define sort of that purpose a little bit. So let's get back to my observations. I don't know if you have any other questions up to that point, but I can get straight into my observations.
I do, Stephen. So
Sure.
one of the questions I do have is, you said the women said that they are afraid of their community.
Yes.
What did they mean by that, one? And then the second question is, where are the men?
Great question, both. First point was, when I came here, there was a family identified, and then as sort of and the notion, I mean, essentially the issue here was there was a family who was creating havoc here, one single family.
Wow.
That was not my personal experience when I had to address the family, but essentially this family, and really it was the youth, it was the young men within the family who kind of allowed their cohort of friends to come here and create havoc here. So essentially, there was a group of young men who reside here, and for whatever reason, community became afraid of their own youth, of their children. These young men grew up here, but they didn't have guidance. There was no other grown men around. So when you ask me where were the men, the story is when this place came out of the ground in the early 80s, it was a family community, and that there was a lot of engagement, family engagement. Sadly, it came out of the ground around that same time where there was a huge epidemic of crack in the city. And so my understanding is a lot of the men were basically involved in that trade and in that process, and we all know what happens with that. There's no winners that come out of that. So many of them have perished through being involved directly or indirectly, either incarcerated or they died, or OD'd. I've heard the gamut of stories.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's a pretty interesting community because if you look at it, the way it's set up, it's a fortress. You can see when it was built, that it was amazing. It still is to me. The family. It seems that most people here don't see it. I see it. I see the beauty in it. I see all the grace in it. I see all the hard work that went into managing, this over the past, I would say over 40, 50 years. And where are the men? They're not here. They're absent. They're absent. There are a lot of, as I said, single women. There's a lot of older families here. And so, and then the flip side, there's a lot of young men, and they just, when I see them, when I walk throughout the community, they have a look of interest, like, what are you here for? Why, how do you navigate here without fear? And I shared with Luan from a different experience. It reminded me back when I moved to Baltimore, and I had to make a presence in a community where I could afford to purchase. The first home I purchased in Baltimore City was on a block where it was notorious for action, a lot of action, like a lot of activity. But it was an area where I could afford to buy, and I wanted my family to start in a home that I could afford to purchase. So I had to establish very early this sort of respect for what was going on in the community, but also with the understanding that I respect what's going on in the street, but I also need you guys to respect the fact that I own this place right here. Right. So I immediately found a way to respectfully navigate in the community, and it worked out. And so I brought all of that experience through my other experiences from then to now, and interacting with our brothers and our families and our sisters and our friends, and just to have conversations. So as I shared, I've mentioned that family, I had to encounter them, and it was to the point where even my staff was afraid to interact. I mean, they wouldn't go on maintenance calls. And so real directly, I had to go in, and I met the young man who was essentially the man of the household. I don't think this young man was more than 20 years old. Couldn't have been more than 20, 21 years old. But he was the man not only of that household, but of that building.
Oh, wow. And
so, but at the end of the day, all he wanted was leadership. He wanted somebody to see him as a human being, as a person. It was a typical Nino Brown type.
That's what came to mind. Yeah.
Interaction. when I walked into the unit, I mean, it was all of what you could imagine from some of those movies that we see.
Yeah.
But you could also see the desperation within the household. You could see the fears within the household. You could see the camaraderie amongst the guys who were in the household. It was all those things. And it just reminded me of me when I grew up without all of that other stuff. It just reminded me of the men in the household, and then my uncles, and then my cousins, So you can see the dynamic of family and community. It was their version of family and community. But again, as you see the level of toxicity that is also, and trauma that's associated with it. So that was my experience. So as I shared, without going into too much further into that specific situation, as I said, Luvan and I, we chat daily, and we just talk about leadership. We just talk about the absence of us as solid Black men in our community. So I was very thankful for the opportunity and grateful to be here.
Right. Go ahead, Lou.
I think the beautiful part of what Stephan is talking about, as it relates to the previous guests, the trauma inside of the experience of being incarcerated how it sort of transposes itself to a very primal street presence, to where it creates another level of anxiety to people who aren't incarcerated. But I think the broader point that Stephen has said, inside of his knowing, it was a cry for something else, which is the leadership, which is the doc, hold my hand, let me show you. And that's all that EDAC is about. How do we take formerly incarcerated? How do we take people that have mental anxiety? How do we take the leadership role as men ourselves and say, don't worry about it, I got you. And I applaud Steph, because when we talked incrementally through these steps, for them to embrace now Stephen in his leadership is powerful. So I needed him to be here today to talk about the other part of courage that it takes, the other side of success that it takes, the benchmarks that you have to set mentally and emotionally for himself. Measure success. You know what I mean? Because it's not a walking out there with a bat and saying, "Oh, y'all gonna get in line." It's not that.
No.
But it's not walking on chips or crackers either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely like scooting around here like we walking on chips and walking on eggshells. Now we're really not doing that, because again, we know that don't work.
Right.
Yeah, that can't work. Folks will help you to scoot across some eggshells if you let them.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So Stephen, how were you able, and for those individuals that are tuned in who may be saying, okay, we heard about leadership. So how do you redirect that leadership for, I'm gonna say, for good in this case?
So that's the $100,000 question. I think part of it is showing up. No, it's showing up, being present, being accountable. I'm going to be very honest. As I shared before, I've had this experience before over years in my personal life. I've had to, intersect a whole bunch of this. And at some point it becomes tiring. It is tiring, because we want to see your folks win. But I also know that unless I'm present, then I can always talk about the problem, but who's working on the solution? So I really believe that being present and also offering opportunities. When I shared with Lou, and I think I shared when we talked about the sort of the subject matter, it's my piece is understanding how to bridge the gap between all of this talent that I see, because I see it as talent. I see it as wasted talent, but there's a huge amount of talent there. When I walk, believe me, when I came in today, I walked past a group of young men that I know I walked past when I left here on Friday in the same spot. So when I left this place on Friday, and I came back this morning, this same group of men were in these same, about 4 or 5 in the same spot. And these are young guys. So being present, because initially the interaction was standoffish. Hey, what are you here? What you here for? We've navigated to a space where we give each other co-mutual respect when we greet each other in passing. But the next step is exactly why I'm here, and that is, what does it look like? I don't know their history. I mean, I could share with you that they are definitely young men from the community. They're of the community. I also know a year ago, this same particular group would invite other young men from the community, and then there would be clashes and conflict, probably associated with all of the other stuff that happens with young men who really don't have purpose, who have a destination. And as I said, these young men were, their purpose destination was on the block when I left here. So that's been my thought. My thought when I came in this morning. And so the good news is there's a young man here who I encounter often. He lived here with his family, and now he has his own family here. He's young. He basically shared that with me, but I met him here. So he was here, and his story is he was also a part of that negative energy that was out there at one point. And then just this morning, I shared with the same young man that I was going to be doing this presentation today, that I was invited to participate in today. And I just said that later on, I'm having a conversation with some good brothers about the dynamics of what's happening here. I say, give me some jewels. Ask this young cat to give me some jewels. And he said, when he's going through all of the I guess the programs, if you will, for young men who run into trouble in this city. And he said it's just one particular time where he was away, and he was away because he did something that he shouldn't have done. And so he was away, and he got a call from his mother. And his mother called because a similar thing that he did to someone else, someone did to his mom.
Wow.
He was away, and he felt helpless. This young man, I got this story, this reality this morning.
Yeah.
This young brother said he was away, and he felt helpless, powerless, and that he couldn't do anything to help or protect his family or his mother. He said that was the first call. That was the first one. The second one, while away, he said that there was I guess a youth counselor who was a part of his reality there that he trusted, and that part of this young man's issue was he wasn't disciplined enough. He felt entitled, and so for every time that he asked for something, he thought that he could get it. It was as simple as ask, I'll go get it, or I'll go take it. And he said it was two people that he respected in his life who told him no. That was his father. He really didn't get to the dynamics of his father, but he told me about this youth person at this where he was, and he said that this counselor told him no. Like, what is your issue with hearing the word no? And he said that was the second time that he just kind of got it. He said just hearing no and having a process to making it a yes versus I want and then I'm gonna go grab or take. So I just thought that was interesting just this morning. And so coming full circle, I think being present. So, my initial interaction with that particular young man that I just mentioned was as simple as, hey, I live here, I take care of my mom, and surely this young fella, he's very, very what's the word? He's very, very deliberate and intentional about making sure that his mom is straight because they both live here. So not only does he provide for his family, he still provides for mine. So I just think it's amazing that someone who was a detriment, that's the word, that's the word that the families used initially when I came here. There was a family that was a detriment to the community, And now he sees himself as a positive aspect. And he reached out to me. So I see that vibration being a bridge to the rest of the community. So being present, being honest, doing what I do here, there's a bigger reality here. Truthfully, where I am, folks own. This is an ownership type situation. It's not a community that is sort of I call it a community where people don't have an ownership interest. Everyone they just don't know it. Sadly, they just don't know it, and I've been.
They don't know that they own a piece of the property.
Sadly, they don't understand and recognize that they actually own this property.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole, we can, but
that's a whole nother one.
That's a whole mentality. But Omar, I promise you, and I didn't think that I understood it until after person would come here, and I'm having conversations like, you are the owner. I work for you. They have a renter's mentality. They don't rent. So, yep.
Yeah. So one of the things I heard you say, and even with the young man, it's about, and even, with, when you first got your house in Baltimore, it's about introducing people to a new pathway. I mean, this is what this podcast is about, pathway, but also, finding resources to move forward in life. And sometimes individuals, they just don't have those resources. And let me back up. They don't have it, they don't explore it, but they do have the resources, but they don't explore it, if that makes sense.
It's an excellent point.
The opportunities are laying, even when we used to do our entrepreneurship training class, it was at no cost. We stopped using the word free. It's at no cost.
Right.
Now, you'll have an opportunity to meet with somebody one-on-one if you have this idea, and people wouldn't take advantage of that. So the opportunity was there for them, but they just didn't see it as a true opportunity and didn't want to explore it. Some individuals did see it as a true opportunity, like the young guy. He wanted to change his mindset and find the right resources so that he can be more active in the community in a right way.
It takes a few triggers, as Stephen alluded to. It only takes a few triggers.
Yeah.
especially if you want it initially.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you can't figure your why, stay stuck.
Yeah.
When you can't figure like the reward at the end of stuck.
Yeah.
And you get that trigger, like you said, from his mom and from the counselor, you begin to bridge the gap of trust. This is the second time we heard trust today, Omar.
Absolutely.
Trust is the segue to every possibility.
Absolutely, for
Yes.
sure. And that was honestly the bridge to that relationship. He trusted me enough to even share that with me.
Yeah.
I just, again, it was a passing this morning. And to your point about having access to opportunity, he shared again how there are a couple of other siblings within the household who he wanted to extend his blessing onto and his relationships onto. To your point, Omar, you know there are opportunities, but you have to avail yourself to them. You have to be open to them. And
Absolutely.
sadly, you know, this is a young man who said even, you know, a blood brother, you know, sometimes he had to take his hands off and say, when you're ready, come see me because I can't keep bringing. So you got to show up sometimes. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it's about. You have to show, you said that you have to show up.
for sure.
Sometimes, we have a guy, that even some of the students on campus, those students who just show up, we always say, they want an intern. I say, okay, I'm paying my interns. However, we want you to work on a project first. Let me see how you do on that project. And I say to them, show up. Let me see how you show up. And then some of them do show up and they move from, okay, I proved the point to Omar. Now I'm getting paid, compensated for the work. Because all you gotta do is just show up. And I always I tell everybody that all you gotta do is show up.
Right.
Show up in life.
Indeed.
Show up at your job. Show up in entrepreneurship. I mean, opportunities will be presented, and it's up to you to take advantage of that.
For sure.
So
That's what they say. When the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
That's it.
absolutely,
All the time, Doc.
Definitely.
absolutely. So I know you're probably not asking for this stuff, Stephen. It's what resources do you need from the people who are tuned into this podcast? I mean, do you need men to come there to mentor the young men,
That's
or
it.
what resources?
No, that's exactly it. Definitely need men to come and mentor. That would be an excellent first start.
Uh-huh.
Also need folks who are willing to come in. The type of community, it's a community where it'd be good to not only engage the men, but also engage everyone here, on the whole notion, as Luvan alluded, probably a different podcast, but this notion of entitlement and fighting battles that you don't have to fight. You've already won the battle. Some folks just don't really understand that they won the battle. Now you have to maintain what you asked for. You got to own it. So ownership, but yeah, the first crack would be definitely having some men come in and really show up and help mentor some of these young men.
All right. Is there an email or phone number that people can reach out to you to learn more about this mentoring opportunity?
Absolutely. You can reach me directly. Number's 202-277-9281.
Get that number out again.
202-277-9281.
All right, 9281. All right. So if you're interested in mentoring some young men, you say this is at DC?
Yes, it is.
All right, good deal. Reach out to Stephen Stephen Turner. And he'll get you hooked up.
Make sure you send a check to
Absolutely.
carry check. No, I'm just teasing.
That's right. All right. So any final thoughts, Steph?
Nah, just again, very grateful for the opportunity to reconnect with both of you good brothers, and hopefully we can try this again, do this again.
Absolutely. We're gonna talk about that ownership next time.
Let's do it.
All right. Levon, any final thoughts? Well,
I just want to say thank you, man. This was powerful. I mean, just to stick and stay.
Yeah.
Just to trust yourself, trust your individual purpose. That allows you to be able to bridge a lot of the gaps.
Yes.
And one of the things that Stephanie and I talk about on a daily basis is how well do we know thyself so that we can keep extending ourselves. So thank you, Steph, for being here.
For sure. Appreciate it.
All right, good deal. Let me share the screen. There we go. We figured it out.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So just before we leave out, we have some activities that we have at Morgan State University through the Entrepreneurial Development and Assistance Center, entrepreneurship training. So if you are looking to get started in business, or if you're already in business and you want to go through a training program, we have resources there. We have on-demand content like Briefcase. I keep saying Briefcase. That must be one of
BreakThrough.
that must be my favorite podcast. BreakThrough podcasts. We have Riot University, and we also have some continuing education. We also have business assistance. So if you're looking to explore an opportunity, we can connect you with a business counselor. And then we have our annual event. It's called the Rod Impact Summit. And for more information, you can just email me at omar@edacmorgan.com. And phone number is 443-885-3663. So, let me get rid of that. So, Stefan, thank you for coming on board. Really appreciate you sharing the information. And for those, and Luvon, as always, thank you for participating as the co-host. And for you all out there that's tuned in, thank you. And then until next time, continue discovering new pathways. And as always, continue to improve and progress in life and in business. We'll see you next time. Peace.